MLS Monday, Sydney and Henry with you as we are almost on the other side of the international break as we talk right now, Henry. Still a few more days to go, but this weekend, conference semifinal weekend is coming up, and we may hit that at the back end of the show. Henry, how are you doing, sir? First things first.
I'm doing great, man. Had a nice
Yeah.
weekend off from MLS action. Was able to kind of just recharge. I did some Christmas decorating actually over the weekend, which
Nice.
was fun. Put up the lights. I don't know if it's considered too early for that, but I don't care. We decorated, put up the tree and everything. So I'm gonna be able to be locked in this weekend for
Are
conference finals
are
or
you in
semifinals.
the
Sorry.
yeah, are you in the camp that decorates for Christmas before Thanksgiving than your family or
See, I'm in the camp that decorates for Christmas when it's most convenient
yeah.
because I just know that I won't be able to do much of anything next weekend, and
Right.
then I feel like it'd be kind of late to leave it for the weekend after because at that point, it's already December, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. This these last few weeks have flown by. Like next week will be Thanksgiving, which is crazy to think about. I guess what traditions do you have? Being Colombian, what traditions do you have around Thanksgiving and Christmas? Anything or
No,
anything
I just
special?
thought it was funny how you said it like that. It's like, being Colombian. No. Uh, no, I mean, look, uh as far as kind of our thing, we definitely do kind of lean into, uh, the whole gift giving aspect of it
Yeah.
all. I think that's definitely a part of it for sure. But even more so than that, uh, we do what's called the novena, which is like the 9 days leading up to Christmas. Like we do
Mm-hmm.
uh, some kind of, we gather as like a family and we just kind of, uh, you know, share some time, like sing, do whatever. Like it's a really cool thing that we've done kind of every year. It's traditional in
Awesome.
Colombia. It's very like a very Catholic, like very religious thing. And so that's something that we do. And also obviously I mean the food. You gotta
Yeah,
have
of course.
buñuelos con natilla, some empanaditas, like
What are
that's what I'm
those?
talking about, man. You don't know what those are? Okay. Well,
I don't.
Scarves and
Educate
Spikes,
me.
Scarves and Spikes Colombian food night.
Yeah.
You will try them. But basically, buñuelos, they're like these little balls of like the best way I can describe them is like fried cheesy dough, sort of.
Oh, okay.
But they
So this is
taste
like Brazilian cheese bread, sort of, or
no. So it's basically you take flour, eggs, and like uh, some cheese, right? But it has to be a
mhm,
specific type of cheese. I don't know how to
mhm.
like. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. But it has to be a specific type
Yeah,
of
yeah.
cheese. You like mix it all in a bowl, right? And you make this like masa basically, and then you roll that up into balls and you put it in oil to like fry it, and they
Mhm.
come out and they're amazing. They're bomb, spectacular.
So good.
And then empanadas are
Oh,
like
empanadas, I know.
you know
Empanadas, I know.
empanadas.
Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Empanadas, I know.
Natilla is kind of like imagine Jello, but like sweeter and like cinnamon flavored.
Hmm.
That's
Interesting.
kind of what it is in a nutshell. There's more to it. I don't know the full
Okay.
recipe because I've never made it myself, but it tastes really good.
Should do a Scarves and Spikes Colombian food or Colombian cookbook for our Patreons, for our patrons next year.
I'd be down for that for sure. I
Little
could have some of that
bonus.
stuff right now.
Right. No, so could I, man. So could I. Well, we could talk about food all day. We could talk about holiday traditions all day. But Henry, I know you and I talked about it right after it was announced the other day last week, but MLS schedule change coming up in 2027. And go to YouTube and pull up the video where we kind of talk about it in depth. But if you've been hiding under a rock or living under a rock over the past few days, MLS is moving to a summer to spring calendar starting in 2027, a mini season before that to sort of set the stage for this new calendar. And of course, the discussion is it aligns with the European calendar. Uh, but again, the larger discussions, the cons, I feel like, is weather, northern climates, playing matches in the winter, and sort of to mitigate against that of course, MLS is taking that break. But I feel like one little thing that hasn't been brought up too much, Henry, is it's sort of, and Tom Bogert wrote about this in the Athletic earlier in his conversation with his chief soccer officer from around the league. He mentioned that the CSO had mentioned that it's out of alignment with the South American transfer window or the Brazilian, yeah, South American transfer window. So that's sort of the flag that's been raised by at least one CSO that Tom spoke to. So I kind of found that interesting. I guess on the other side of that, right? England isn't aligned really with the South American transfer market. So sort of a little give and take. But I guess, did you read that? Did you hear about that? I guess if so, what are your kind of thoughts about South America? Because, yeah, a lot of South American players, of course, come to MLS, like Atlanta United. A lot of South American players have come through here. So I guess what are your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually did come across that tweet earlier this morning. I think it was from Luis Musi, who was the was it chief soccer officer at Orlando? He was something at Orlando City, right?
Yeah, he mentioned Samutsi. Yeah, it's a former CSO at
Former
Orlando
CSO.
City. Yeah, he said it's more important to MLS, or this change is more important to MLS than promotion and relegation. We can sit for like 3 hours like a pro rel, but
Yeah,
no, just in terms of what this means for the South American calendar, in terms of players being brought in from South America, players being sold to South America. Yeah, it's out of alignment. But again, you look at England, you look at overseas, and that's sort of the same case, right? So
yeah.
again, it's a
I
give
think
and take.
overall, yeah, I think overall you want to line yourself up with the European calendar. That's what this move has done. Uh, and like you just mentioned, right? Europe isn't aligned with the South American calendar. That doesn't stop them from going and
Yeah.
getting talents that have risen from the Argentine first division, from the Brazilian Serie A, the Brasileirão. That hasn't stopped them from getting players from there because they're still quality, right? And honestly, the big
Yeah.
worry that you have is with the Brazilian league, because even like the Argentinian league and some of these other South American leagues, a lot of them kind of do what Mexico does, which is like apertura clausura, right? So you have one tournament
Yeah.
in the first half of the season, right? From like I don't know, January or February to like May, June, and then you have another one from like August to December, something like that.
Mm,
And so you don't really need to worry about the transfer windows aligning because they're gonna like every transfer window is your primary transfer window, so it works out. But in terms of Brazil, that's kind of the main thing, right?
yeah.
And interestingly enough, I was talking to some folks about this earlier today because I thought it was an interesting point, and they mentioned that there are kind of talks within the Brazilian league to potentially in the coming years also shift to this summer to spring calendar, right? That
Mhm.
MLS is now switching to that Europe has been on. Uh, so if they do that, then you have no worries. Um, but yes, I do agree that these Latin American markets are important, not just to Europe, but also to MLS. And we were
Yeah.
talking with Tata Martino at his press conference the other day, and I asked him, like, do you plan to reestablish kind of this Latino core that you had at Atlanta United before, right? Where he would bring a bunch of Latin American players, and he said, yeah, I mean, he believes that
Yeah.
most teams in MLS, most successful teams, count on. He called it a strong vertebrae of Latin American players, and I followed up. I asked him like, why do you think this? And he said, well, because a lot of these players, they haven't been to Europe, and Europe's the ultimate goal. Because
Yeah.
whether you are, a Euro snob or not, you have to admit Europe is the highest level of football that there is, the
Uh,
highest level of soccer that there is on the planet right now. And so that's where the ultimate goal is for a lot of these players that are coming from South America, and they see MLS as a stepping stone, as a
mhm.
trampoline to get to that level. And interestingly enough, Tata compared MLS to the Portuguese league, to the Dutch leagues, where you know talented players go to kind of develop themselves as a person, as a professional, as a soccer player, to be able to then take the step from competing there, a high level competition, to then jump to whether it's the Premier League or La Liga or La
Mm,
Bundesliga or whatever. So I think definitely, that market is still important for MLS, the Latin American market. I still think that they're going to be able to use it. I still think that it's going to be, that's not going to change by any means. I don't think. Um,
yeah,
but I will be interested to see kind of how the dynamics of that work, how the transfer windows will be set. Will MLS have the exact same transfer windows as Europe? If so, how does that impact their ability to get these players from Brazil, from Argentina? That's going to be something that we have to monitor. Again, not like we still don't have all the details about how
right.
all of this is going to work. This is still something that's developing, and we'll get more information on this as time goes on. But it is something that is happening, and it's stuff to look forward to for sure.
So, in to hit on your point about what the transfer windows will look like when they're in alignment with Europe. So, Nelson Rodriguez is in charge of competition and sporting initiatives. I think that's his title, but yeah, competition initiatives for MLS. He said that the MLS transfer windows will extend slightly past what's in Europe. So that's sort of hitting on your point. So I wanted to kind of hit on that. But then number two, what you talk about Atlanta United, and from a wider lens, MLS, um, South American players went to come through MLS, come through America, and then bounce over to Europe off of that trampoline, a way to expose themselves in ways that they probably weren't able to. And granted, South America, of course, is you know you'll get seen down there, but America offers you, and Canada offers you so many diverse media markets and a global product in Apple TV, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, where you could really shine and you could make a name for yourself before making that move to Europe. Thiago Almada is a perfect example of a player who came from Argentina to MLS, and he absolutely blew up and made his way to Europe. Of course, there's a lot of technicalities around what's going on with him in Europe. We won't get to them in this episode, but he's one of those players that went to Europe. Alireza Araujo, a player I'm sure had European aspect. Granted, he came over from Europe and sort of did the reverse and played with Atlanta United. Now he's in South America. Now he's in Brazil, and he's really just improved his status there. So I don't know if it was kind of a plan B, I guess, on the part of Atlanta United. Because remember, when they sold him, it was sort of at a loss, right? Slightly at a loss because Atlanta United were like, "Hey, we're just washing our hands of this player, and he's in a much better situation." And shout out to him, congrats to him on that. But I wanted to also hit on. I mentioned it earlier, or no, I did mention it earlier, but I also want to hit on. It's not official yet, but this report of divisions and doing
Mm,
away with the conference setup. And Matt Baker, if you go on his X account, Matt Baker sort of from I forget the outlet, Flyover Footy. They
flyover
cover,
footy,
they cover St.
St.
Louis
Louis.
City, yeah. But he posted on X, and we'll post it in the chat if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're on X, we'll sort of retweet it or make sure that it gets broadcast. But he did a map on what a theoretical 16 5 division setup looked like for MLS. And if you look at this map, the Northeastern teams and the Canadian teams, I'm sorry, yeah, the East Coast Canadian teams are in it together. Southeastern teams, of course, Charlotte, Nashville, Atlanta, Orlando, Miami, and then DC is in that mix as well. And then if you look at sort of the Southwest, sort of the Sun Belt market, if you will, Dallas, Austin, Houston, traditional Copa Tejas rivals there. But then you see LAFC and then San Diego FC there as well. That being said, with that, San Jose is in this group with the Cascadia teams, Real Salt Lake, and Colorado. So I don't know if there's like a perfect system as far as how to group these teams together because
It's so
I did,
tough, man.
yeah, I ideally, and Andrew Weeby said this earlier on his account. Ideally, you will want San Jose as part of the California teams, but then what will that do with? You'll have an imbalance there because you want the California teams and the Texas teams together, right? So again,
It's so weird,
it,
man.
yeah,
Because like
there's no,
there's a
yeah,
massive gap between the California teams and the Texas teams. So
right,
there's
yeah,
2 whole states in there with
yeah.
no teams. And the
Well,
same
two
thing
and a
if you
half with Texas.
yeah, and that's the thing. And then the same thing in the Northwest, where I
Yeah,
mean, you have this like you have Cascadia up here. That's 3 teams, and then all the
uh-huh,
way over here you have Rocky Mountain Cup, and then it's just
yeah.
freaking San Jose. But that's the thing. Like, what else do you do for it
Doing
to
their own
make
thing.
sense? For it to make sense, I think this
Yeah,
is the grouping that I most agree with. If we're talking geographically, obviously, as you said, I really would like to have the California teams all together, especially because
mhm.
San Jose and San Diego, they kind of developed the fans at least kind of developed this rivalry over this
The Cali
season.
Classico, yeah,
Exactly. And I mean, it just makes sense to have all the California teams together, right? Um, so it's weird, but at the same time, I just don't see another option that wouldn't like require other teams to go
yeah,
because it's like you have no other teams like beyond Texas there, you have no other teams
yeah,
that can really fit in there. I mean, there you have a whole
right,
bunch of nothingness in Wyoming and the Dakotas and Nebraska and stuff. So
yeah,
it's tough to really group them any other way if you're doing 5 divisions of 6 teams. And again, this isn't anything that's been made official yet, so we don't know. But this is the
right,
one that makes the most sense to me as far as preserving as many rivalries as you can and keeping these teams as close together as possible so that you don't have to have all these very, very long road trips all the
yeah,
time throughout the season, which is what this is meant to do.
yeah. And one thing I want to add too is if you look at expansion markets for MLS, some of the names that have come up traditionally are Las Vegas, Sacramento, um, and then maybe a few others, Detroit, although Detroit City and USL Championship might have something to say about that. So with that and with that in mind, though, you have the USL Division One league coming up. You have that to compete with. So I feel like a Sacramento or maybe a Las Vegas Lights or Detroit City would go with that new D1 league. But if MLS is keen to expand in a market where they see an opportunity for a club, where would they go? And then if that happens, what would happen with this divisional breakdown? So I imagine that's in the back of MLS's head saying, hey, if we add a team or 2 teams, because I think it'll be 2 teams, I don't think they'll add a single team. But if we get to 32, what will happen? And I would like to think MLS is sort of thinking about that. Now, we don't know right now as we sit here what what things look like expansion wise. If MLS is keen to go to 32 teams, if they are, where will they go? So that's just one of the things that I know that looking at this map, I guess, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. The markets that most obviously stand out to me are definitely Las Vegas. They're a
Mm,
city that I would have expected would have gotten an MLS team a while ago, just considering that it is a big market.
yeah.
Um, I don't know, maybe Phoenix could also be one. It's tough because
I mean, North Carolina, but they're going to USL
yeah,
Division
and that's the
One,
thing.
SCFC.
And here's the thing, right? Obviously, you want to have as many markets involved as possible, but then where do you draw the line, right? 40 teams, 50
That's
teams,
seems like a lot, though. Because
exactly.
if you and Garber
That's the thing.
said,
That's what I'm asking.
yeah,
It's where do you stop with adding the teams? It's not about excluding markets. It's about
yeah,
maintaining a league that makes sense. I mean, already with 30 teams, MLS is one of the largest leagues in the
in the
world.
world, yeah. The
So
Premier League is 20, yeah,
exactly, and a lot of leagues try to stay around that number. They don't usually go that far. I think Argentina
yeah,
is the only one that goes as far as MLS goes. So, okay, you're splitting them up in these divisions. That's great.
Mm,
I'm just curious kind of what the future is for this as far as MLS, and eventually,
yeah.
will some sort of promotion relegation come in
Mm, yeah.
MLS to so that you can have these markets involved, but at the same time, like have them at this level. I don't know. It's a tough question that I don't think
Yeah.
MLS is in a rush to answer right now. I think with the markets that they have right now, they are fine. Uh, it's just a matter, I guess, uh, of sorting it out when it comes. But as you said, I don't expect them to add like one or two expansion teams at some
Yeah.
point. I would probably expect them to add a significant amount so that you have at least one more in each division or something similar to that. Because if not, then you're giving some teams, I believe, a competitive disadvantage by being in a
Yeah.
league that in a division that has more teams, harder teams, something like that. I don't know. It's interesting though to think about this new MLS 3.0, which is what we're
Yeah.
going into, right? It's been branded MLS 3.0, and coincidentally, by the way, it is coming as the World Cup is being held in the
Yeah.
United States, which is what kickstarted MLS way back in 1996. Was that
Yeah.
94 World Cup? So this is where we've gotten in 30 years, right? What will happen in the next 30 years? And I think it's exciting to just think about the possibilities there.
And the schedule, Henry, is not the only thing that MLS is looking to change. They're looking at a new playoff format. We don't know anything about that at this current point in time, but what will playoffs look like with this divisional setup? What will the table look like? There are reports that the board of governors may vote on a single table system, like you see with other leagues versus Eastern and Western. What will that look like? What teams will make the playoffs under that setup? And then with that single table setup, that is probably a step to take as you're thinking about when you said earlier pro rel. And again, we can sit here for hours to talk about pro rel pros and cons, but maybe that single table system is sort of laying the foundation for a promotion and relegation system, uh, first division and second division, because USL, they're doing it. They're going to be doing it with their first division team to compete with MLS. They're going to have their first division, and then teams will drop down to USL Championship, and then down to League One and League Two, and then
How
vice
is this gonna
versa.
work though, right? Because between MLS and USL, you're
Yeah.
gonna end up having 2 first divisions. That
So,
is unprecedented in
so
world soccer.
yeah, we're the only. We will be the only country with two top flight leagues, I believe, in men's soccer. We already have it for women's with the NWSL and the USL Super League, but I think about when Don Garber was doing a media scrum at Mercedes-Benz Stadium a while back after the news was announced about USL First Division, and we don't know the name yet, but I asked Don Garber, you know, how do you see any issues with MLS and USL Division One coexisting? And he essentially said no. And that's kind of the diplomatic answer. That's sort of the boilerplate answer, I guess. But I feel like in the boardrooms of Major League Soccer out there in New York, there's discussions about let's see what USL Division One is doing, and let's make sure they're not beating us to the punch. We have the first movers advantage here. We have a 30+ year head start on this thing as far as top flight soccer is concerned in the United States. So,
You have better investment, you have
better,
bigger names
more
that have
money,
already been in this league, you have
yeah.
history, as you said.
But here's
Y
the thing, though. Here's the thing. What if a big money owner says, you know what? I have a lot of money. I want to put a team in Las Vegas. Let's say that happens.
He
And
wants to take
then,
that gamble?
no, yeah, there you go. Well
I had
done.
to
Well
do
done.
it.
I know. But you see what I'm saying, right?
For
Something
sure.
has to give. And
But I
again,
don't think it
with,
can I don't think it can just be one, like, one
yeah,
one big, owner, right? I think it has to be a significant investment from
yeah,
several owners in several different markets to make USL successful enough to be a legitimate threat to kind of overtake MLS in terms of popularity, legitimacy, I wanna say.
yeah,
Because, okay, let's say 10 years down the line, right? You have this generation of world class players. You have your Mbappes and your Hollands and some of these players who will be towards the latter ends of their careers, and you're probably trying to attract them over MLS,
Yeah.
right? Because if you want to bring some legitimacy to your league, you want to attract them over MLS. How do you go about doing that? How do you go about kind of showing that your product, that your league is a better place for them to end their careers than an MLS team? Because a
Mhm.
lot of these USL teams, they don't play out of big stadiums. They don't have huge fan bases of I mean, let's talk about Atlanta United. That's unfair, right? Because they routinely have
Yeah.
40,000 people at their games, even when they suck,
Mhm.
right? And same with other MLS markets. The average attendance is around, like, 20 in the 20 between 20 and 30 thousands for a lot of these markets. Can USL teams compete with that? Is the question.
Mhm.
Can they get these attendance numbers? Can you get players enough to kind of make this more attractive to, these next generation of world class players that will be on the latter ends of their careers, to kind of kickstart your league? Because that's
Yeah.
how MLS was able to do it back in the days of they got Pibe Valderrama, you got Diablo Echeverri, you got a lot of these
Yep.
players that were towards the latter end of their careers that had been part of World Cups, right?
Yep.
Or big tournaments, had been notable in soccer. Then you got your
Then eventually
Beckhams and you got a lot
Beckham,
of these
yeah,
guys.
who yeah,
Exactly.
because labor
Like, how do
DPs,
you
yeah.
attract those kinds of names? Because that is
Mhm.
what brings interest to your league. That is what attracts viewers. If they can do that, I think that's going to be the key for USL
Yeah,
success.
absolutely. One other thing I wanna kinda touch on is part of this MLS 3.0 initiative is roster rules, and you talk about talent. If you wanna if you're talking about MLS solely, if you wanna make MLS a league of choice globally, you've gotta open things up from a financial standpoint. We're seeing this with the NWSL with Trinity Rodman, arguably one of the best players in the world right now. She's out of contract after the USL final, and she's considering going to Europe because European clubs, they have no salary cap. They can pay her whatever she wants and say, "Hey, come here." USL or NWSL teams can't do that. MLS clubs can to an extent in that they have designated players. You have 3DP slots or two if you decide to go with four U22 players. So there's been some tweaks, but no wide scale overall changes to upset the balance of where we stand right now with roster rules. And that's one thing that they hinted that we're talking about. MLS is talking about as well. How do we remain competitive in the global stage? Since we're aligning ourselves right with the European market, we have to remain competitive. We have to bring people over, and we can't do it with these silly roster rules that we have going on right now. So there has to be a lot of flexibility that MLS is willing to put into these roster rules coming out of the World Cup in order to make this product even better, to make it more competitive, and hopefully encourage smaller clubs. And I see Ariel saying in the chat, what about looks cheaper teams like Stan Kroenke, who of course owns the Colorado Rapids? Yeah, fans aren't too happy with how he's treating the team and what he's done with the team, treating them as an after that because he has bigger interests in the other bigger sports leagues. Will that force him to spend more money? Will it force other owners traditionally not as high spending, Jay Sugarman, Philadelphia Union, people like that? Will that sort of force his hand? And I think that's the big question that you have to ask. If you take off this salary cap, what will the smaller teams do? And will I guess, the least motivated owners do to account for that?
I mean, I think if you abolish the salary cap, then yeah, you're just kind of giving the teams that spend more, right? You're giving
Mhm.
them more freedom to kind of really spend that, really kind of thrust their wealth around and make that count. And I just out of curiosity was looking at some of the teams that have spent the most over the past season, a couple of
Mhm.
seasons, who have spent the least. Um, Atlanta United obviously tops the charts. That's
Yeah.
not a very proud one because of, uh, you know, how the season has gone.
Yeah.
But then you have, Austin, Cincinnati, LAFC, New England, San Diego. And at the bottom, interestingly enough, LA Galaxy, St. Louis,
Mm.
Montreal, which I kind of expected, DC
Yeah.
United, Philadelphia, Orlando, Nashville. Um, Case in point, I think much like in other leagues around the world, if you have the resources, you should be able to use them. I, you
Yep.
know, I don't give into this argument of, you know, oh well, we should make this kind of fair and balanced. It's not fair to the teams don't have as many resources. Like, come on. Is it fair to the teams that have more resources that they're not allowed
Mhm.
to really invest more and get more quality players to bring into the league, right? And I say this as someone who's kind of like looks at what Inter Miami is doing as far as bringing in like Messi and all these folks, and when a big name is connected, they're like,
Neymar.
oh, the fourth DP slot, right? That's kind of that's kind of the
Yeah.
joke, right? But at the same time, like I recognize like that is a legitimate strategy, that is a legitimate model, and why would we as a league limit the star players that can come into the
Yeah.
league when you have these players enter the league? It generates so much interest because you're drawing the eyes of the world. I just finished talking about how USL can that's the key for them to raise their profile and to be successful is to attract world-class talent. I think at some point MLS is gonna have to kind of open the floodgates so that they have more freedom to explore the market and bring these players in, right? Not just for transfer fees, but as far as payment goes, as far as salary, because
Mhm.
that's the main thing is how do you pay, you have a payroll that includes Lionel Messi, Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez, Rodrigo de Paul, um, and others that you could potentially bring.
That's pretty much how you could describe them and others at all. The
Exactly.
rest of the guys.
So it's that. I think if you really want to unlock the potential of this league and the teams within this league, you gotta let them use what they've got. And if there are teams that aren't going to be able to keep up, well, then honestly, that should incentivize them
Mhm.
to that would actually probably force some of their hands to invest
Yeah.
more, to throw some more money in that direction and see if that to keep up with what some of these teams are spending, though some teams like for example Philadelphia with their academy being one of the best in the country, they might be able to keep up with that. San Diego, they have
Mhm.
their right to dream academy and they have that model. That's something that could help offset that. That's the thing, like spending all this money is not like the one answer to success in
Yeah.
MLS, even if you
Yeah.
remove the
Look at
salary cap.
Atlanta. Yeah.
Even if you remove the salary cap, I think, it's about using those resources intelligently, and some teams cannot do that or have demonstrated that they cannot do that. Atlanta. Sorry.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just had something stuck in my
It's
throat.
winter. It's almost winter, cold season. Before we move on, one quick question for you. James Rodriguez, true or false, he is in MLS in 2026 and beyond. What do you think? He's not going
Well,
to TFC. He's not
apparently
going
he's
to
not going
Orlando
to
City.
Orlando or Toronto. We'll see what team he's connected to tomorrow. I was trying to start the James to Atlanta United rumor, even though Atlanta has all three DP slots filled. Um,
Let's stick him in as a fourth DP.
I
See
mean,
who notices.
where would he land though? Is my question. RSL? That's where he was connected
Chicago.
to earlier.
Who has his
With
discovery
Chicago, I
rights?
don't see him at Chicago.
Who has his discovery rights?
I don't know. Well,
That's the thing. Nobody knows. See,
there are
that
discovery
speaks to
rights.
roster rules. His whole discovery rights wasn't it?
Explain the concept of discovery rights to a European.
Wasn't it Chicago that had the discovery rights to Neymar?
I think so.
Or it
That was
was
funny.
no Sporting Kansas City had
You
this
think they still want to bring him?
discovery. Right. Yeah.
No, but
Um,
answering your question, I don't think that James will be in MLS in 2026, and there's one simple reason. Well, first of all, I would have liked to have James at Atlanta United at
mhm.
some point in his career. That would be awesome. But the problem is, and I'm saying this as a Colombian and someone who's admired him so much, he has bounced from team to team to team to
Mhm.
team. He cannot stay in one place. And that, that speaks to two things, right? It's first of all, his on-field product, which at the club level has historically been okay, but nothing compared to what he does with the national team. Like his
Mm.
focus is very clearly the national team. Uh, so that's the thing. If he comes to MLS, I don't know that he alone will change teams. I mean, he was in
Yeah.
Liga MX with Leon, which is that
For 2
is
minutes, right?
yeah. It's what do you call it? You can equate that to MLS. It's the same level more or less.
Yeah.
And he didn't exactly shine over there, right? I mean, after one season, he's already gone.
Mhm.
So that's the thing that I think would happen here. And in a salary cap league, if MLS wasn't salary capped, I could see it happening much easier. But in a league with the restrictions that MLS has, you would have to spend a DP slot on him. Are you
Yep.
willing to spend it on someone who may or may not be available, who isn't very consistent as far as his on-field product, who probably behind the scenes may not be easy to deal with
Mm.
because he does have some of those kind of attitude situations that have made him one of those players that just kind of bounces around because he can't stay in one place because they can't really tolerate him in one place for way too long. Um, and again, I say this as someone who admires him as a player, and
Right.
to me, he's the best player in Colombian soccer history.
Mm.
But I just don't think MLS. He's a good fit for MLS clubs as far as roster construction in a very heavily roster building restricted league.
Yeah. So you're putting him above Valderrama as the best in Colombian history,
I
or
have to, man. I have to, just because of what he's done, some of the amazing things that he's been able to do. I mean,
yeah.
the I will never. It is seared into my brain. The 2014 goal at the World Cup against Uruguay. Like I remember where I was
Mm.
watching that game at my
Yeah.
uncle's house. Just my jaw was open. This was freaking like 11-year-old me, by the way, in awe of freaking what James Rodriguez did. I was convinced Colombia was going to win the World Cup, and then they went and played Brazil, and
Yeah.
era gol de Jepes. But we're not going to talk about that.
Best left unsaid. Do you think they win in 2026, by the way? Yes or no?
No comment.
Okay. We'll talk about that another time. We got to talk about some big roster decisions. Some of the big names have surfaced as we're speaking right now. But before we do that, we are an Atlanta United podcast. So we have this show, MLS Monday, going on, our MLS or Atlanta United show going on Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming live on YouTube, X, and on Facebook. So if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, first off, thank you so much. Please rate us 5 stars. Please leave us a review. We do appreciate it. But also consider joining us live Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, live Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, X, and Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe to our videos. It definitely helps us out as we look to bring you the best Atlanta United and in the future MLS, yeah, MLS too, NWSL Atlanta coverage on the internet. That's coming up soon. So we're thinking through what that will look like, and that's still a ways off, but we'll cover that as, excuse me, breaking news happens on the NWSL side, and of course, the Atlanta United side. And then I mentioned Patreon earlier, patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. Support us there. All 3 tiers get you access to our Discord, and $5 and $10 levels get you access to bonus videos, bonus content you won't find anywhere else. Another way to support us is go to our store. It's linked at scarfsandspikes.com. You can get a hat, get a coffee mug, get a hoodie. I have mine hanging up. I was wearing it the other day. All sorts of great merchandise to help support what we do at Scarves and Spikes. World Cup year coming up next year, so we want to give you the best content available. So those are some ways you can support us here at Scarves and Spikes. And again, like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. Follow us, x.com/scarves, the letter N, Spikes. or just search Scars and Spikes on every social media platform. You will be able to find us. So let's talk about these roster decisions and some of the big names. So we got to talk about sort of a trio of goalkeepers out of contract right now. Orlando Apopo Pedro Gallese is out of contract. He is a free agent. Maxime Crepeau, the Canadian international, is out of contract as well for Portland. He is not returning, but they have retained James Pantemis. So it looks like for now, James Pantemis will be the number one goalkeeper in Portland unless they bring back or they sign another keeper to their ranks. And then the other keeper that is out of contract out of New York Red Bulls is Carlos Coronel. So those are sort of the big three names as far as keepers are concerned. So these are players. You look at Gallese, he's further along in his career, of course, but you look at Crepeau, his early 30s. You look at Coronel, who's 28, late 20s, still has a lot of time left in his career. So I feel like those are among not the top free agents right now, but those are among the top free agents right now. It's going to be interesting to see, especially what Crepeau and Coronel do. I'm interested to see where they end up. Atlanta United needs a keeper to either back up or help Jaden Hibbert. That's one thing I can think of off the top of my head. Orlando need a keeper, so be interested to see what this movement looks like. New York Red Bulls need a keeper. Where do they turn? So those are some names, especially in the case of Coronel and Crepeau, that I'm keeping an eye on, especially in the World Cup year coming up.
I would especially suggest Carlos Coronel to be one of the hot uh, players on this free agent market because
Yeah.
he is, 28 years old. He is still very much in his prime. He is an experienced keeper in MLS. He's been the starting goalkeeper for several seasons now, and he's done a solid job. Uh, he, you know, he leaves Red Bulls not because of poor performance, but because they couldn't agree on terms of a new contract. That's
Yeah.
it. He he will have suitors going into this free agent market, and for me, I even said it, I even tweeted it. I'm I think Atlanta United will be one of the teams giving his agent a
Oh,
call to try to sign him. Uh, Talking with Tata Martino, he expressed a lot that he wants to build the team around around Miguel Almiron. Well, Coronel is his national team teammate.
yeah.
He plays alongside him at times,
Yeah.
and they know each other. So if you want to build a team around Miggy, this is probably one of the guys you will want because he
Yep.
plays already with him. Yeah, their positions are far away because like we're talking about a goalkeeper versus a 10 or a winger or
Yeah.
whatever have you, but it's still part of that, right? And besides, he's an experienced keeper that you would be paying no transfer fee for, that you wouldn't need to spend an international slot on,
Yep.
and you
And
know
the
that
green card.
he can immediately slot in as your number one. And here's the thing, right? And people are like, oh, well, what happens with Jaden Hibbert? And we'll talk about this more on the Wednesday show. But you want Hibbert to have competition, even if you are planning for him to be, the number one. You want
Yep.
him to be pushed. You don't want him to stay comfortable and know that he is the number one choice and he has that spot locked down. I think that's why this team has avoided kind of outright saying like, "Oh yeah, he's got the number one shirt," because you ideally want that sense of insecurity so that he keeps upping his game. And if you have Hibbert and Cordonel upping each other's game, competing against each other, as soon as one drops their level, they know that they could be replaced in the starting 11.
Mm-hmm.
And that other person may never let go of that spot. So you will always get these guys trying their hardest, kind of trying to play as hard as they can to keep their starting spot. So I think that's one spot for sure. I'm pretty sure, Nashville, Orlando, Portland, or well, Portland already has Pantemis, but it depends on kind of what direction they're going with. But some of these
Mm.
teams that are going to be in the market for a goalkeeper, for me, Carlos Coronel has to be the number one uh, person that they're targeting.
And just to add to that, I mentioned it's a World Cup year, so if you're going to know, you want to end up in the best position possible, right? Because you want to be, of course, in that World Cup mix on that World Cup roster. So you don't just want to go anywhere where team's not performing and you risk seeing a dip in your form because could spoil your chances at a national team spot. So it's very important that he ends up in a position where he can succeed and really play to the best of his ability. Maxime Crepeau, not as worried with him because it's sort of an A-B situation between him and Dane St. Clair when it comes to the Canadian number one, who's wearing the number one shirt in the World Cup for them. But Great Bo, he'll be on the roster. He was always going to be on the roster, right? But he wants, of course, to beat out St. Clair as that number one keeper. And he needs to be in the position where he's able to succeed. He can't just go anywhere with an underperforming team. I feel like this sort of, if I'm to speculate, it's kind of what drove this decision on the behalf of Crepeau. Yes, he's out of contract, but I feel like he sort of opted to open up his options and test the free agent market because you look at the trajectory of Portland versus the trajectory of Minnesota, um, and where they are right now. You have your national teammate and your fellow keeper is 2 wins away from MLS Cup final at this point. So that's maybe in the back of Crepeau's head as well. Where can I go where I can shine, where I can play to the best of my ability? What's a good situation for me as I look to get that number one shirt in the Canadian camp in 2026?
Yeah, I don't have much else to add to that. You kind of covered everything there, but yeah, I do agree that Crepeau is one to watch. Certainly, I think he will most likely end up in MLS again. Uh, I'm not sure which team. Uh, Again, I believe I saw somewhere that Sean Johnson will be leaving Toronto.
Hmm.
Could we see him in
Option
Toronto
for Atlanta,
potentially?
maybe, if Johnson decides to play at least one more year.
Yeah. So those are kind of possibilities. It's this whole little uh, player shuffle that we'll be seeing as free agency, gets underway. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see kind of where he lands because he, like you said, will be wanting to feature for Canada in the World Cup. It's going to be tough, and in my opinion, to beat out Dane St. Clair, who was just named goalkeeper of the year.
Yeah.
Uh, but if you're going to do that, you probably want to do it within MLS. That's probably your best bet.
Yeah, for sure. So another keeper that is a free agent right now in Nashville is Joe Willis, and Willis is an interesting situation because he's 37 years old, so he may be either retiring after this season, or maybe feels he can contribute for maybe a couple of years to close out his career at another club. He's from St. Louis, but Berkey is the keeper for now until the foreseeable future. So maybe if Willis was thinking about going to St. Louis to end his career, that's not happening. Kansas City, I
37 years
wonder.
old, man.
Yeah,
I don't
that's the
know.
thing. He's
It's tough for me
performing
to
at a
see him getting a starting job is the thing,
but he's
right?
performing at a pretty good level though. He's performing at a pretty good level.
Yeah, but what okay. If you are one of these teams, right? If you
Mm,
are Atlanta, Portland, Orlando, some of these teams that are looking for the new number 1, are you going to go with a guy who is, probably a season away from retiring or a couple of
yeah,
seasons away from retiring at most? I don't think you do. I think you want to aim for someone that is more either in their prime or, getting into their prime that you can have as kind of that stable presence for the next 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 years, right? That you can at least
yeah.
project long term because it builds that consistency. I don't see any of these teams going for Joe Willis, honestly.
The the only and just to kind of steer it back to Atlanta just real quick, the only way I could see it potentially making sense for Atlanta, and this is just pure speculation, this is just throwing something at the wall. If Atlanta says, hey, we want to keep her in here who can sort of be a bridge between Brad Guzan and Jaden Hibbert. So let's bring a proven veteran and on a 1-year deal, just
Do
in
you know
case if things. Go ahead.
do you know what Joe Willis, what his salary was?
Do you have it pulled up?
I do. I want you to guess.
Was it like 600,000 or something like that?
You were
Did I see
close.
that
It's
right?
658,333.
Yeah, but he's gonna ask for that less than
Well,
that, right?
yeah, he
If he
has to
goes
get
somewhere
less than
else.
that, and I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. Also, is how much does he want? Like, is that compromise line drawn? Because I think for a lot of
Mm,
teams, if you're looking for a backup, you're probably trying to stay at senior minimum, honestly, because this is
right.
a salary capped league. You want your the bulk of your salary cap to go towards the other parts of your roster. Goalkeeper, honestly, like that is it's a position where you don't want to spend a whole lot,
Yeah.
honestly. Um, so spending, even if you're spending like 300 to 400, 500,000 on a keeper, on a backup keeper, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, as an insurance policy, I could see it like maybe half that 300, 350 or something like that. I'm not saying it will happen,
For like
but
someone that
I feel
won't
like
even play, right? Because I mean, unless you have like some sort of injury throughout the season.
yeah. If you even though he started 9 times, if you want to ease him in, that's the only way I could see the side with. But I mean, it's a long shot. I realize that it's a long shot, but all in all, like we're kind of getting at, it's gonna be interesting to see what his next move is. Being 37 years old, another player out of Nashville, sort of one of the big free agent names that are available is Walker Zimmerman, and I feel like with him commanding so much money, but him being on a DP contract, it was probably in Nashville's best interest to move in another direction with him, just from a purely business standpoint, because he's meant so much to pro that club, so much to the U.S. men's national team. And it's another player who, we talked about Coronel, we talked about Crepeau. Zimmerman, can he get himself in the World Cup, back in the World Cup roster? I don't know if we've heard too much about him. I mean, I feel like we hear about Tim Ream, we hear about Miles Robinson. Can Walker Zimmerman sort of work his way back in that national team mix? And so Pochettino, hey, I belong in the U.S. men's national team setup. So it's another player who he'll be looking to find a good situation that fits him, where he can perform well. It's going to have to be on a much lower price tag, because he is making what, 3.5, 4 million with Nashville or something like that. If I'm not
I can
mistaken.
look it up.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It
You know
is
that.
3,456,907.
Yeah,
So it is
uh,
way too much, way above the DP threshold. Uh,
yeah.
Look, no team is going to take him on a DP contract.
No,
Let's just
no.
get that out of the way. And so he will have to drop that a significant amount. Um, Max Tam, though, I
Yeah,
would
Max Tam
I wouldn't
certainly.
mind it. He's 32. I mean,
Yeah.
past his prime for sure, but he's still solid. I mean, he's got experience, which I think is something attractive for a lot of these teams. Um, I
Mhm.
think you want some of that experience on your back line for sure. And so I think if there are teams that are looking for him on potentially a max TAM deal, I think that's where this gets done. Trying to think of some teams that could use that. I mean, man, maybe
Yeah.
Red Bulls could use something like that.
I don't
Orlando,
see
I
a
don't
I don't
know.
see a fit in Red Bull. It's just the type of football that they play, though, you know?
Atlanta, go back home.
That's
Come
gonna be a tough ask,
come
because
back, my fellow
unless
Brookwood High
he
School alumnus.
he
Go
he's gonna want
Broncos.
he's gonna need a massive, massive hometown discount if, he's to come back to Atlanta. I mean, plus you have Stian Gregerson in place, you have
Okay, but Stian
2
Gregerson's
other
made of
center
glass,
backs.
so
Yeah, that's true, that's true. I mean, in a perfect world, you have Stian Gregerson, you have Miha, you have Berakal. So
But
there's
I
gonna
see
have
what
to be
you're
a
saying.
decision made.
I still think that he is going to be someone that is highly
Uh-huh.
looked at over this free agent market.
Yeah.
I'm not sure by who.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see how that pans out. Um, but it's gonna have to be a massive drop from his massive drop from his DP contract. And max tab, I believe, is what was it, 743 for 2025
Oh,
or
what
something like
are
that.
these dumb roster
I
rules?
know. So it's gonna have to
Sounds
be,
about right.
yeah, it's gonna have to be, yeah, like around that much. I mean, other than that, if you pay him more, you don't have to put the DP tag on him. But I
Mm,
mean,
yeah.
but I think it
Sorry,
is.
I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah. No, I don't know what it will be in 2026. I
Oh,
believe
right. That
slightly.
changes year by year. That's another
Yeah, it's just
confusing
year by
thing.
year.
Just
Um,
when you think you've learned this league, they go and change it.
yeah,
Um,
no, exactly.
Max salary budget charge is 743,750.
Yeah.
You can expect that to be changed.
Hmm.
And then there's, tameable contracts, and that's something that can be done, but for the contract that he's on, I mean that would be
Yeah.
impossible. So you definitely have to get that number down quite a bit.
No, for sure, for sure. Another name that is out of contract is Cesar Aruju. Not Aruju. That's the
We went
Brazilian
over this before the
pronunciation.
show,
Yeah, we
didn't
were.
we?
Yeah, we did.
That's if he's
Cesar Araujo.
Brazilian.
Yeah, Cesar Araujo. Araujo is how you pronounce his name. He is out of contract. Orlando City posted their thank you messaging on social media. Do you think he stays in MLS or do you think
Yes.
he moves? Okay, you think he stays in MLS
Yes.
because yeah, he where do you think he'll land? I guess. I mean, I feel like his contract is pretty. Will be pretty good. Will be pretty team friendly unless he wants a big pay raise. He made 548 in 2025, so I imagine he'll want you know close to that TAM ceiling, whatever it will be in 2026. I guess that's the big question. How much money will he want, and is the team going to be willing to give it to him?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where kind of they'll draw that line, or exactly what he's going to be asking for. He was, I believe, on a U22 contract with Orlando, and kind of the reasons they couldn't pick him up is because, I mean, the salary charge increases
Mm-hmm.
once you get off that. Once you
Yep.
become 25, I think is the threshold. It's kind of the same reason why LA Galaxy had to let go of Dejan Jovic. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's that whole conundrum. But as far as
So
where
he
he
was
could
on a
land,
TAM contract. He was a TAM player,
he was a
not a
Tampa.
U22. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Just thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I'd be interested to see him. I always say Atlanta, but like honestly, Atlanta, I don't know because the midfield is so crowded right now.
Yeah.
Um, Nashville might be a good place for him to land. I could see him. Uh, yeah, I could see him in that midfield for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Man, I don't know. I'd have to think this a little bit more, but he's definitely a player that you're going to be looking for because his dribbling is good. Uh, he's he's solid as far as MLS midfielders go.
Yeah.
I say that he reminds me of a slightly faster Steven Alzate just because he is good at escaping pressure and kind of progressing play. Um, so yeah, I think he is a reasonably good MLS quality player, and he has not taken up an international slot, by the way.
Yep.
So that's another attractive aspect. So he's gonna have people that he's gonna have suitors for sure. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly where he'll land. It'll be interesting to see that though. I do think he
Yeah.
ends up in MLS again though.
Yeah. So I'm looking at, and I'm just real quick looking at some of the other teams that have not released um, roster decisions. We won't talk about Atlanta United on this episode, maybe at another time. But Austin FC, I'm looking at Brendan Isaac is an option for next year. Stephen Cleveland is an option, goalkeeper. So if they decide to part ways with him or not pick up his option, he could be a good backup for a team in need of one. Um, Elie Sanchez, what do you do with him? Do they bring him back? I mean, Elie would be a good a good veteran addition to the team. He's 34, so we'll see, how much time is left on his contract. He's making 600,000 2025. Let's see who else. Charlotte, I think, announced theirs, or did they? We know sort of Charlotte's
They haven't
direction.
announced their end of season stuff yet.
Yeah, Charlotte's not announced. So David Bingham will be out of contract. I think other names. And I'm
Paul
just going through
Rothrock is
these
out of
real
contract with
quickly. Paul
Seattle, and
Rothrock out of
apparently
contract
that's
with
not.
Seattle.
Yeah, apparently
Yeah,
that's those negotiations are not looking great, according to reports. I don't
I'll
know
be interested to
how
see
true
where
those
he
reports are.
goes.
Yeah,
I'd be very interested to
um,
see where he goes.
he's the interesting thing about him is he is currently on a senior minimum because I think he's a homegrown player for them, so they can put him on
Yeah,
that senior minimum, and he's definitely going to want more than senior minimum after this season because he's been decent. But I wonder where you start looking at that and at what he's going to be asking for and decide, is this worth it? Because for a
yeah.
lot of MLS teams, honestly, for me, he'd probably be more of a depth piece than anything.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
see him being a starting caliber player in MLS next season.
yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Of course, Smetzer, his famous quote, they have Messi, but we have Paul Rothrock. So, like, Rothrock came pretty much a folk hero up in Seattle. Quickly, we didn't hit on this last week. Marko Mitrovic being named the head coach of the New England Revolution, former U19, U20 head coach for the United States. So I feel like this is a move by New England to get in somebody who is familiar with working with younger players, knows U.S. soccer well. Um, he's multilingual, speaks Spanish, English, of course, Serbian, his native language, Russian, but multilingual. He's played on a number of places as a professional. He's coached in, the UK. He's coached in Chicago, and then over his past few years, he's coached in the U.S. youth national team setup. It doesn't wow me, but I feel like this is certainly a new direction based on uh, the Caleb Porter situation. I think Mitrovic will certainly get on with players more than Caleb Porter did. I think he'll have a better relationship. He knows how to work with younger players. Having said, I don't know. It just doesn't wow me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's no Pep Guardiola signing by any means, but um, I think it says a little bit about the Revs, kind of their change of philosophy in a sense, kind of it's a state of intent, a statement of intent of what they want to be going forward, and it's a club that kind of focuses more on their academy, more on the
Yeah,
up and coming younger players. I mean, we're talking about a club that you've had players like Esmir Bajiktarevic, Tejan Buchanan, Georgi Petrovic, who have gone from playing with the Revs, from coming up through their system to going then to to Europe, to other places, and so I think kind of if they want to lean into that aspect, he is a great guy for that because he knows how to manage younger players with potential, and he's done that with some success. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. I think there's more of a long term vision than anything. It's more of a, you know, more of a let's build something for where we'll see the results
yeah,
4 or 5 seasons down the line. Then
yeah.
MLS Cup 2026, here we come. Uh,
Right.
yeah, I think it's more of a let's build over a longer period of time than a win now situation.
Yeah, the Kraft family just needs to be patient. They can't just flip the switch after year 2 because, again, this is a long-term project, and they have young players in the system right now. Peyton Miller, Jack Panayotu, they have him. Um, Noel Buck, think he's still around. Noel Buck is still part of that setup as well in New England. So no, he's in San Jose. I beg your pardon. So you know, as you look at again this academy, like you mentioned, how can he get the best out of these players? How can he improve them, and how can he really set this team on the track it was under Bruce Arena? Because yeah, it's not been good under it wasn't good under Caleb Porter. And I think they thought, hey, let's bring in a MLS Cup winning coach to help get us back in the right direction after the parting of ways with Bruce Arena, and it backfired. And players just didn't like him. You could tell because of the number of players that left New England to go to San Jose when Bruce Arena was hired there. That speaks a lot. But then just anecdotal things, how he didn't get along with the media, how he didn't get along with players. He butted heads with them, and pretty much was it's my way or the highway. So just not the best situation with Porter. I don't get that sense with Mitrovic. From what I heard, is pretty well respected in the coaching ranks, and all the best to him. I mean, it's not going to be an overnight fix, but the front office needs to support him and get the players in place to help this team succeed. If they don't, I think that they'll be back at the drawing board, yeah, at the end of 2027. So hopefully, for New England's sake, they can get back on the right direction. Hopefully, Mitrovic is the person to do that. Didn't have time to talk about the conference semifinal matchups coming up. Hopefully, we'll do that later on in the week. But again, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart, leave a review, leave a 5 stars, rate us 5 stars, let us know how we're doing. I'll get it right at some point. I feel like I always stumble at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. No, leave us a review, leave us 5 stars if you're listening to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart. Again, consider watching us live Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I will tell you next Wednesday we will not have a show because of Thanksgiving. So we'll post our schedule and all those updates on their social media. Again, scarsandspikes.com. There's a link to our Atlanta United coverage, NWSL Atlanta coverage, MLS coverage, and a link to our store where you can help support what we do here. Patreon.com/scarves and spikes. All 3 tiers get you access again to our Discord, and $5 and $10 subscribers get access to our bonus video and sometimes audio content. Henry, where are you on social media?
You can find me at HA Higita. That is Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. Yeah.
I'm at SH Wright on X and Blue Sky, SidH.soccer, Instagram, and Threads. Scarves, the letter and Spikes on X, scarvesandspikes.com on Blue Sky, Scarves and Spikes everywhere else, as including Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate your time. We will see you next time. So what was that food you were talking about? That
Which
last
one? Talked about like 3 of them. Natija?
Yeah. What's that again?
It was, so the way I described it was like, imagine Jello, but it's like it's kind of like sweeter and like cinnamony.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's really, really good. I
I'll
don't
have to-
know how to make it, but it's really good.
I'll have to try it if I ever find
sure,
myself
man.
in a Colombian restaurant.
If you have a Colombian restaurant nearby, or like a Colombian store, or even like a Hispanic store, usually they'll have like a Colombian section of things that you can buy. They even have like these little boxes where like you can make your own like natija or buñuelos or whatever, and they have the instructions for you to just follow and do that. You could definitely just make them yourself and see how that turns out. But yeah, I highly recommend trying all that stuff. It's so good.
I'm sure there's a place on Buford Highway or somewhere I can find it.
Probably. I mean, you'd have to be close to the Las Delicias de la Abuela, right?
I think so. We'll have to look it up.
Yeah, that I think they sell them. I think they sell natijas, buñuelos, all that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
definitely go check them out. And not sponsored, by the way, but if y'all want to sponsor us, that'd be pretty sweet.
Please sponsor us. We'd love it.
But yeah, go try that stuff and let me know if y'all like it.
That's like a plan. I will report back.